Welcome to the program, everyone. You can join the conversation right now on X using the hashtag Beyond the Headlines. Remember to tag at TVC News NG and at Nifemi Oguntoye. Well, let's begin with an update on the traffic situation on Lagos Island. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, has apologized over the traffic situation yesterday. He visited the closed Independence Bridge, assuring that efforts have been made, or rather have been put in place to ease the gridlock, assuring residents that the situation is under control.
I said, even though I didn't give the approval, I'm aware of it. We did the design and we agreed to be done. But normally before a bridge is closed in Lagos, usually I was always contacted. I was always given approval. And normally I would come down to Lagos, and then with Lagos State Government, we agree on alternative routes. We announce it for more than 2 weeks, and then we deploy, the right engineering method statement to do that. And so this time around, we didn't go through that process, and that's why we had this hardship. So Mr. President directed I should come down to Lagos and stay here until this problem is solved. We had the same kind of problem in Adamawa sometimes about 3 months back, and the President directed me. I was there, and we had the problem solved, and we released traffic. So in doing this, I thank the Lagos State Governor who was here earlier on, and through the government instrument, they've been able to announce to Lagosians alternative routes. And I said, even though
earlier today, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu also apologized to residents of Lagos State, explaining that the contract to fix the bridge has been on for more than 3 years and that the decision to fix it was to prevent a disaster waiting to happen. Well, let's turn our attention now to our conversation today. The Independent National Electoral Commission has announced that a petition seeking the recall of the senator representing Kogi Central Senatorial District has been rejected. The commission held its regular weekly meeting today, considering and approving the report of its physical count of the signatures and thumbprints forwarded with the petition for the recall of Senator Akpotiuduaghan. INEC says it ensured the petitioners comply with the requirements for the submission of the petition. It also notified Senator Akpotiuduaghan in writing, copied the presiding officer of the Senate, and also saying that the petition did not meet the requirement of Section 69, subsection A of the Constitution, and no further action shall be taken on the recall of the senator. A petition for the recall of senator must comply with the provision of Section 69A of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, which requires the signatures of more than 1/2 of the registered voters in the constituency. The total number of registered voters in Kogi Central Senatorial District is 474,554. More than 1/2 of this figure, that's 50% plus 1, which is 237,277 plus 1, which at least has to be 237,278 voters. Across the 902 polling units in 57 registration areas and 5 local government areas that make up the senatorial district, the commission ascertained 208,132 signatures and thumbprints from the submission made by the petitioners. This translates to 43.86% of the registered voters, which falls short of the constitutional requirement by 29,146 signatories. Some say perhaps it's the closest attempt we've had to recalling a senator. We're following up very closely with reactions from stakeholders. One of them joins us at the top of the hour. Let's turn our attention now to faraway Edo State, where the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, which held in Abuja, has affirmed Monday Okpebholo as duly elected governor. The tribunal in 3 respective judgments dismissed the petition filed by the PDP, Action Alliance and Accord Party. It held that the People's Democratic Party failed to call witnesses to prove its case of overvoting. Let's bring in spokesperson to Dr. Aswe Godalo Obede Faluyi Sibo, who joins me live from our Abuja studio. Also joining us is APC chairman in Edo State, Derek Tenebe. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us on Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you for having us.
All right, let's begin with Mr. Ifalui Isibo. The tribunal ruled in the unanimous judgment that the petitioners failed to prove the allegations of overvoting and non-compliance with the electoral law. Was this a case of poor strategy on the part of your party? How are you reacting to this?
Well, thank you again. Thank you for having me. And what happened yesterday, in our view, was very interesting. And more than just being interesting, it was a complete travesty of justice against the Edo people who came out en masse on the 21st of September last year to cast their votes. And majority of the lawful votes were cast in favor of the PDP's candidate, Dr. Okpebholo. And we felt that there was a collusion with INEC and the APC to steal the mandate of the people, and that's why we went to court. And it was very interesting to listen to the judgments yesterday because it fell short of not just our expectation, but it fell short clearly of the Electoral Act. Section 137 of the Electoral Act explains that in a case of non-compliance, oral evidence was not necessary when substantial documentary evidence, originals or certified true copies, were tendered in court to buttress the point of the appellant. And so we were wondering how the judge or the judges were expecting us to present witnesses for the case of non-compliance in over 300 polling units. Were they asking us to present witnesses in all 300 polling units? In the case of overvoting, the electoral law simply states in section 51 sub 2 that wherever the number of vote cast exceed the number of accredited voters, there is clear overvoting, and the presiding officers must invalidate the election at the polling unit level. And so we presented these documents before the tribunal. These were documents certified by INEC. These were forms EC8As. These were a result sheet uploaded on the IREV. And we also tendered beaver's extract. A beaver's extract is a produce of the beaver's machines. So it's just like having an original document and then you have a photocopied document, but a certified true copy. It's as good as the original document. So,
Mr. Isibo, sounds like you're saying that
yes,
the beaver's extract is evidence enough to prove overvoting, right?
No, my point is this. The beaver's extract is one of the documents required to prove overvoting because the beaver's machines captures all the numbers of accredited voters who came to vote on election day. And more than that, it captures the photographs of these voters. They are time-stamped. So we know the exact number of people who were accredited, and we also know the exact number of those who voted. So if the forms EC8A is proving overvoting, the forms EC8A as uploaded on IREV is proving overvoting, and the beaver's extract, which are a produce, like I said, of the beaver's machines, are also proving overvoting as required by law and also for the voters register. How then is it that the judge or the court is asking us to provide evidence or to provide witnesses in 133 polling units to show that's overvoting? So it appears to be whatever evidence you bring before the court documentary does not matter at all. Only the testimonies of your witnesses matters, and that is that contravenes the electoral laws. That contravenes, what the tenets or the ethics and ethos of democracy is. So if a court, a tribunal in this case, made a pronouncement that all the documents tendered by the PDP were INEC documents, more than that, they were all certified by INEC, and the court has accepted all of these documents as evidence as to be admissible in court, but in giving a judgment, you're not basing your judgment on the evidence, the documentary evidence you have, and you're basing it on the fact that we didn't provide enough witnesses. It's not as we didn't provide witnesses. The tribunal was saying they were not enough. And then we're trying to argue that Section 137 of the Electoral Act says that in a case of non-compliance, for example, oral evidence was not required where there was documentary evidence certified by INEC to prove the case. And that was what it was. So we did not even need to produce as much witnesses as we did, but all witnesses we produced spoke to the documents we submitted. Was it overvoting? We had polling unit agents to speak to overvoting. Was it the case of non-serialization? We had collation agents to speak to that. Was it the case of incorrect collation of scores? We had party agents to speak to that. So we are at loss as to what the tribunal really wanted. Were we to bring over 700 witnesses to court because we had issues with over 700 polling
I hear you clearly.
Is that what the court is saying?
Mr. Isibo.
And in the case of Hopu Zodima versus Ihedioha, the Supreme Court clearly said, just like the case of Baba versus INEC and Johnson versus INEC, that the number of witnesses do not really matter so long as the evidence produced by documentary evidence is substantial enough to prove the case.
And
so
I guess that is why you have opted to appeal this judgment. But allow me to bring in the APC chairman in Edo State. Mr. Tenebi, you heard Mr. Isibo saying this is a travesty of justice. The PDP completely disagrees with the tribunal, dismissing its petition, citing lack of merit. They say they have documentary evidence, which, of course, doesn't require oral testimony to be able to substantiate their claims. What specific weaknesses in PDP's case do you think led to this outcome? And are you confident this victory will hold at the appellate court?
Well, when you talk of documentary evidence or you talk of overvoting, the beavers machine is very key to it. And when you talk of documentary evidence, there are a lot of problems with documentary evidence because anybody can just go and print out something from a computer and present it as anything. So there are certain things you have to do, what you have to meet to be able to, for it to be admissible in court. And if you talk of overvoting, the beavers is very key. And don't forget that maybe Ifaloyi Isibo is forgetting that they actually brought beavers to court, which they were supposed to bring the INEC people to demonstrate, to prove that what the beavers registered, what the beavers recorded as accredited voters is actually more than the votes scored recorded is more than what was recorded as accredited voters. So the moment they did not do that, they are falling flat of that very aspect of the documentary evidence. The point is that, you see, you don't come to court if you allege that there was overvoting in a unit. You should be able to bring somebody to speak to it, not just bring in documents to dump, because there are people you bring in documents even if they are admissible from the beginning, but you must bring somebody to speak to those documents to assure that what you are saying tallies with what is actually on ground. The point is they brought some witnesses. They proposed to call about 150 witnesses, but they ended up calling 19. Out of the 19 witnesses, 15 were ward collation agents and local government collation agents. They only had about 4 witnesses that are unit collation agents, and what they are alleging happened at the unit. And you don't come to court to evidence of hearsay. Somebody just come to say something happened in so and so unit, and you agree to it. That amounts to hearsay. And for you not to, for hearsay evidence to be admissible in court, there are certain things you have to also meet. Is either such a person is dead or such a person is incapacitated, and you must also prove before such a witness can be admissible, such an evidence can be admissible in court. So they did not do all of this. So that's the reason why I think they lost the case. And even if they go on appeal, all these facts are there.
All right.
That judgment was very tight, and the justices did justice to the case they brought to court.
Mr. Isibo, the PDP brought 19 witnesses. Many of them, the court says, are collation agents when your party should have come with more than 100. I understand your position on documentary evidence, but was it for lack of witnesses or it was an oversight?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Let me break this down so we can clearly understand the meat of this argument. The PDP or the petitioner brought 3 major issues before the tribunal. One was the failure of INEC to do prior recording of the quantity and serial numbers of sensitive election materials. Section 72, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act says that where there is no prior recording of sensitive election material, records, serial numbers, and quantity of sensitive election materials, the election in those polling units will be invalidated. The second issue was overvoting, and we had that issue in about 133 units. And the law says that where the number of those who voted exceeds those accredited, you cancel the election. The third issue was the issue of incorrect collation of scores. We found out that perhaps INEC made a mistake in several polling units where they dashed the APC several scores. And so we were saying, look at the original documents, look at the documents that were used to announce results, determine which is real, and call the results. So the issue of having witnesses, let me ask you a question. For the case of non-prior recording of sensitive election materials, that happens at the rack centers a day before the election. That is an exclusive duty of INEC, not party officials. So if that was INEC's duty to record those sensitive information, how come the judge is asking us to bring evidence of witnesses who had no business at the rack centers a day before the election? Help me make sense of it. In over 390 polling units, INEC failed to submit herself to her own guidelines. And so we're telling the court, if the electoral law says cancel the results in those units, cancel the results in those units. It had no business with us producing witnesses because that activity was exclusive to INEC and was to be done a day before the election. So asking us to abhor witnesses makes no sense. Number two, just a second. On the case of the Beavers machines, we as a party are not authorized to operate Beavers machines. The judge could not have expected PDP agents to put on Beavers machines in court. That is exclusively an INEC duty. So for us to have spoken to the Beavers, or whatever the Beavers had to say, was the reason why INEC gave us the Beavers extract. It's just like you pulling up emails from your phones, right? And when you pull up the emails from your phones, you make a photocopy of those screenshots, you know, and INEC certifies those emails as emails that came from your phone, and you tender it in court. You also tender the phones that produce those emails. But then they're saying that, oh, because you didn't put on the phones in court, so the emails did not come from the phone when the emails were certified by INEC. So we are at loss as to what INEC really wants. If we had issues, really, with 133 polling units and about over 300 polling units for non-serialization, were we supposed to bring 500 witnesses to court? My chairman of the APC just said that we're supposed to bring 190. Perhaps if we bought 300, that would still not have been enough because we're challenging results in over 700 polling units.
We probably will see how the Court of Appeal reacts to the concerns you've raised, but we'll be back to this conversation shortly. Stay with us, everyone. Okpebholo Isibo is spokesperson to Dr. Okpebholo. Derek Tenebi is chairman APC Edo State. Gentlemen, thank you for staying the course on the program. Mr. Tenebi, it appears that the litigation isn't over yet from what the spokesperson to Dr. Okpebholo is saying. But let's talk about what's next for your party that has won at the tribunal. What's Governor Okpebholo's priority? There are concerns about the need to heal the divisions and consolidate your party's hold. What are your thoughts in this regard?
Well, let me talk about it's good for me to talk about that issue. You see, when you bring in sensitive materials to rack centers, every party is supposed to have their agents in that place so that they check properly. So all the agents are supposed to be there. Even to me, as a lawyer in equity, I even feel that aspect of that matter is a pre-election matter to me. Before the proper election. These are issues that might be good to test in litigations. But what we want to do, we have already called everybody to come together for us to join hands together to move the state forward. That's what we are doing. That's what we are saying. We are saying that this victory is not a victory for APC. It's not a victory for Senator Monday Okpebholo. It's a victory for Edo State. And that's the reason why we want everybody to come together, because the entire state came out to vote massively for Senator Monday Okpebholo. That's why we are saying it's a victory for Edo State. That's why we are calling on everybody, irrespective of the political parties, to come together so that we can join hands together to move the state forward. I've also tried to speak to where the Faluyi Sibo, because we've been together before, to come together to join hands with us so that we can move the state forward. But if they say they want to go on AP, fine, we'll still meet ourselves there.
An olive branch extended to you, Mr. Faluyi Sibo. I don't know what that smile meant, whether you're taking it or not. But there's also what they call the politics of things. Chief Dan Obi, for instance, blamed ex-governor Obaseki for PDP's collapse. He accused him of his failure to be able to put things together. There's also a comment coming from a former member of your party, Aslim Ojezua, asking that it's about time that Dr. Ighodalo congratulate the governor. He spent 5 months in office now, for the sake of the state. How do you respond to concerns of this nature?
Well, as a party, we are very committed to development and progress of Edo State. I mean, we were in government a few months ago. I was a member of cabinet, so I'm committed to the growth and development of my state. However, we do not have to be in the same political platform, to work well for the state. We can be on our own end, urging them to go on and criticizing when we see that they are derailing, because the prosperity and the well-being of Edo people is of paramount importance to us. But we have a little worry at the moment because we have a case before the courts, and we intend to pursue that case, to a logical conclusion on behalf of the Edo people. It really has nothing to do with Aston Ighodalo or myself, but the mandate that was given to him by the people. So we hold the view, and we hold it very strongly, that let the right thing be done. Let the let the person who the Edo people truly have confidence in, let him be at the helm of affairs of the state. And also, we are worried that even before the judgment was announced, we could also already see the governor already jubilating hours before the judgment was announced. So we're worried, did he have a pre-notice of what the judgment was going to be? And that's obviously not fair in a democracy. We would hope that the judiciary should do better and stand up for what is right.
Quickly, you were in government only a few months ago. What do you make of 5 months Okpebholo administration? In 30 seconds.
Well, Governor Okpebholo clearly doesn't have the legitimacy of the Edo people to lead them. And that is why most of what you've heard from Edo State has been negative.
Of course you will, Mr. Tinebi. Let him finish his thoughts. You will.
It's either there are pockets of insecurity day after day, and it appears that there's no clear-cut leadership. There's no clear-cut idea of what the governor intends to do. And so we are thinking that he'll be bold enough to engage the Edo people, to speak to them and to tell them, these are my roadmaps, this is my plan for education, this is my plan for security, this is my plan for agriculture or transportation. It's not just enough for
Mr. Tinebi, you have 30 seconds to reply. Quickly.
The governor should be able to express himself.
Okay, yeah. Faluyi Sibo said the governor was jubilating before the judgment came. That's not correct. In fact, if the social media was awash yesterday, when they saw me kneel down and I was praying in the morning, and the governor also knelt down and was praying, and he was in court, but the Faluyi was in court, and he saw the tension in court as I yesterday, because there were a lot of several others that they were taken, that they were taken from. Nobody ever thought where the pendulum was going to swing to. But when somebody prays, it then means you are relying on God. And when you rely on God, you will definitely get the result you prayed for. So that's what happened. Their candidate did not pray. Our candidate prayed. Was it because of the prayer that he said we already knew what was going to happen? He prayed and God gave us victory.
Interesting comment you have made there, because you are probably not in there closest to actually know whether they prayed or not. But that's our time. Jared Tenebi, Chairman APC.
When they follow you, you go pray. The other people don't pray.
In Edo State.
That guy there is a good man.
Mr. Ogbede Ifaloye Isigo is spokesperson to Dr. Aswa Igodalo. Gentlemen, that's our time. Thank you so much for talking to us on Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show today, everyone. You can watch it again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.